Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, coming at you live talking about episode 18 of the anime series Rage of Bahamut Virgin Soul. And this was definitely one of those scenarios where, because of the 2 week sort of break in between this and the last episode, I almost went into this episode expecting it to feel like real time had passed, that they'd be further along than what they end up getting around to in this episode, which is not a hell of a lot, if I'm honest. If we had actually had this episode before the 2 week break, it might have been that much more interesting, as it's aligning toward this big gala ball event that Kaiser's going to have to go and sneak in and try to get his hands on the bracelet that Chedios wears and everything like that. It would almost feel that much more compelling if that 2 weeks had passed in real time. And then the next, penultimate episode when it aired would be right when that ball is happening, that event is happening. But, as I say, not really a whole hell of a lot happened in this episode. There was some cursory character development in both the parts of Alisand, the former Orleans Knight, under Kaiser. He's still very much an Orleans Knight, but formerly under Kaiser, because Kaiser has been ousted. He's now a wanted criminal. And we've seen a lot of the mulling over of this scenario for this character, Alisand, whom largely has been sort of in the background, unimpressive to me, not really a standout character, although I have been somewhat intrigued by the focus they've been putting on him. And this episode was sort of the pinnacle of that. It was finally the culmination of all of that. This idea that, Kaiser had betrayed him, and now here Kaiser comes in, I guess kind of sort of in drag-ish, cosplaying like a demon dude or chick or something. I'm not exactly sure, in the bar that, Cerberus is there and everything like that, that Alisand and the other guy are always at. And this really gets Alisand's ire up. And here is Kaiser coming and calling because he knows, because of his familial lineage and everything like that, well, Alisand is a shoo-in to be invited to this event, or maybe he'll be positioned there as an Orleans Knight and such like that. So that's Kaiser's in, and he needs to impress upon Alisand that he needs his help. And so that aspect, seeing that earlier in the episode, he actually went to the leader of the Onyx soldiers, and said, I want to be one of you guys, which when the guy, takes off his gauntlets and his gloves and everything, and you see his veins are all caked up with some sort of black something or other. I don't know exactly what's going on there, but it's like they must be sacrificing their health, their well-being, to like amp up their strength, maybe something like that. I'm not exactly sure what kind of sorcery might be at work, or chemical compound or something like that, or some kind of magic, that kind of stuff, maybe demon technology or something. But it seems like it messes you up, and here is Alisand all but ready and willing to give himself over, seemingly, to that, because he feels like he's been completely and utterly betrayed by this guy he formerly looked up to, and then he was always smarting off to Kaiser and such like that. Ever since Jean d'Arc had been sort of dethroned, air quotes if you will, as the leader of the Orleans Knights, he never quite took Kaiser seriously, and even now, it takes some winning him over, but only after being shot down by the Onyx Soldiers guy, who's like, forget it, you're not worth it. You're pathetic. What do we want with you? And so this, it really upsets him. And that was probably the most interesting aspect of the episode to me, was his confronting that and calling back on the frustrations, and just finally resigning himself to the fact that when Kaiser comes calling, I guess I kind of have to help him. There's nobody in this world, even as crappy as I have treated this guy, Kaiser, he's the only one who actually sees me as having any worth, who is counting on me for something. So I think that really assuaged his worries and his concerns and his remorsefulness and conflict about Kaiser, as well as, just sort of won him over. But I'm hoping that's the case. I'm hoping once this Gala Ball event happens and they, spirit Kaiser in, and maybe Nina will be involved as well. She very much wants to be involved in it. Such like that. And everyone else is like, no, this is no place for you, I don't know who is going to actually be involved when the time comes for this ball event, but Kaiser, I'm hoping Alisson doesn't turn face when that finally happens, is basically what I'm getting at. And the other aspect of the episode was, of course, Azazel, for his frustrations in the face of what he lost, the people whose trust he garnered, he impressed upon them, they would succeed going against the human king that is Charios, and he had to watch his friends and compatriots die gruesomely, brutally in front of him, and he's retracing those steps, having now finally been reunited with Mugato, El, and there's really nothing being spoken between them. Of course, it seems like Azazel, he's very sort of pithy about, Nina's apologizing for not being able to drag it out at the time when he most needed her to. And he's like, I didn't really expect anything from you. But then when he sees how quickly she can do it, how she's harnessed that ability and she's been able to figure out how to do it on command, that just brings up all those welled up emotions and conflictual feelings within him all over again. And that's kind of what makes him remorseful and goes start retracing his steps to where his friends lost their lives. And I just thought it was a really touching pinnacle moment, apart from all the Alisson stuff in the episode, when finally, Mugato runs into him and he's kind of trailing him, and then some of the soldiers think he's suspicious and are chasing him down. They chase him down an alleyway, and then you find, Azazel's apparently been aware of the fact that Mugato's been trailing him the whole time, so he saves him, he swoops in, he saves him, and there's this great sort of backlit by the setting sun moment on a bridge where Mugato apologizes to Azazel for his own failing to step up and help Azazel in a moment when he really couldn't have anyway, because the influential hand of the heavens above, they had encapsulated him, they had trapped him, and there's nothing El could have done at that moment. And I just thought it was really touching that Azazel comes over and pats him on the head. He's like, "You're apologizing to me too now," because of their relationship. It just, it almost felt like surrogate father and son, that kind of thing. Because of course, Azazel was Mugato's saving grace when he needed it most, when he was separated from his mother for all that time. So it was really a nice little emotional reunification of not just being bodily, reunited in physical form. They're both together again, but emotionally, they're both on the same page again. And it begs the question, because of what Azazel's been going through, is will he take the opportunity, if given it, to go rogue from everyone else? Fabro, Kaiser, all of them, what they're planning to do. Is he still perchance being motivated by the idea of angling at Charios and humankind for their penultimate destruction? Is he going to go against whatever it is our sort of protagonists are trying to do, to undermine what Charios is trying to do? And Charios himself, he doesn't have that big of a presence in this episode, apart from the pining that Nina is doing for him, comically so. Favreau seems to be very much aware of it and calling her on it, and she's still denying it at every opportunity. But it's interesting, because it then calls back, when you think of that along the lines of what I've said about Azazel. What is he, eventually going to do? Well, what is Charios eventually going to do? Because he is confronted again with the Onyx soldier, who is like, just give us the order. And he doesn't come out and say, yeah, kill the red dragon on sight like he has previously, but he says, like, I know, like, yeah, I know, I'm thinking about it. Like, give me some time, man. You don't know how many cooks I got in the kitchen that work here. Let me just dwell on it a little bit. And so it's really, I guess I'm left by the end of this episode really just wondering what everyone is going to do when finally everything comes to a head, when finally the momentum has caught up with them all, and they're in the thick of it. They're in the heat of whatever, precarious situation they've gotten themselves into. What is everyone going to decide to do? Because Fabro, he was already set to leave you know, when they finally all got back together. And then Kaiser sort of impressed upon him, hey man, stay, toe the line, stay for a little while longer. And similarly so with Azazel, he's still hanging around. I mean, he was hanging around long enough at least to get that neck brace thing off him, you know, that clasped piece of metal around his neck. So it just, I don't know if there's going to be a fallout with our pseudo heroes, you know, just as much as whatever penultimate fallout might occur between each of these resultant factions, the human faction, the heavenly body, the demons, and such like that. It seems like, I guess you could say this episode felt like the calm before the potential storm. It's just, what is that storm going to entail, is the question. And so it was an enjoyable episode, if not a passive one, almost entirely. You know, not much was really amounted to in it, with the exception, as I say, of those cursory character development elements of Alisand and, you know, Azazel and Mugato in their own way, and the comical aspects of Nina trying very, very much to, you know, rein in her own just exuberance about her love now for Chadios, and really just the lingering questions about what Azazel, what Chadios, what Alisand, what they're all going to do when finally put up against it. You know, that kind of thing. So I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below what you thought of this particular episode of Rage of Bahamut Virgin Soul, if you'd seen it as well, if you enjoyed it as much as I did, found it to be as passive as I did. Again, not really amounting to much significantly, but some smaller character elements, you know. Did they impress you as they impressed me? Let me know in the comments below. Anything goes, just love having that conversation. Otherwise, that'll be pretty much it for me on this. If this video finds you well, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.